Senegal, the Senegal was very much in form of questions. How can we mobilize resources to address our problems in the midst of numerous challenges in Africa? That's shortage of skills, absence of databases for research, and brain invest in human capital development and retention. I put and retention, that's my language. But I think he meant also, how do we build capacity and retain that capacity in country? And to what extent does research benefit society, and what can we done to leapfrog South Plus there? How of opportunities such as building high-level STI awareness among and decision makers should continue, and I think they are useful in together, particularly academia, which runs in a silo, and policymakers, which run on a 5-year cycle of elections, and development, which is sometimes hard to evaluate. So we must walk the champions. The case of South is worth looking at, not just goods and services. Therefore, researchers in social sciences are critical to effective translation of technologies and knowledge into society, and taking advantage of CASNet could be an opportunity worth exploring. This is the parallel sessions. Health and water, under food security post-2015 agenda, technology and innovation, its investment, and the whole value chain. We need to create optimum use of that, and introduce innovative capital development to manage. Improve governance of women and youth as well, and then introduce water efficiency technologies in all sectors, both domestic and industry. The role of science, again, the issue of databases keeps coming back. We have sustainable access to food, health, access, water, resources. Not to politicize this particular area. This is why we have fair areas. Session 2 of part of session 2 of session 3 is there were developed must identify the challenges first, develop innovative, cost-effective technological interventions, extend the use of agricultural products, including their waste, to optimize. Again, it comes of energy. Taking advantage of, we must take advantage of new and emerging technologies such as agriculture to increase yields, etc. And to introduce in education. Generally, enrollment in education courses, social sciences, due to cost is low. And they introduced what they call it, I didn't have my notes, but the third edition we said we must introduce the 4th pillar, which is the governance pillar, which introduced the Portuguese experience, the twin labs approach, and its expansion across. This is building new and strengthening strengthening old existing R&D facilities in cooperating countries, and establish collaborative postgraduate training programs. For the other person working with me, they will be picking all these threads and giving us the message, the take-home messages. Manpower, men and the biosphere, they took note of the growth across the continent, competition for resources resulting in conflict and rebellion. Traditional conservation methods have not worked well and need to be improved. Monitor and evaluate successes of the development goals. Nothing was done for SDGs, hence there's need to establish baseline now for the SDGs. And the above will require the critical 2015 agenda. I can see that many threads, and they take home from day one. Left some. The STI is critical and necessary to achieve SDGs, its development and support and financing. The collaborative approaches in STI is not only cost effective, is this.
Siabonga. Let me take only 2. In Ghana we say Yedasi. 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 Thank you for Yes, even though they've done the best, maybe there would be a few comments here and there and omissions that people think are so important to be included.
Chair Nuhu Jabi from Senegal. I just would like to say that was presented about my presentation. I have something to add, so I will give, because I wrote it, I will give it to them, because I think I raise the challenges we faced in Africa, STI, to mobilize STI for the HD, and also the opportunity we have, and this did not report, so I will give it to them because I wrote it. Thank you.
Well noted. Any others? Please go ahead. One in the suit first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to draw attention on the intervention of the Minister of Education of Ghana, who emphasized for, taking into account science or the innovation for science and technology happening on the ground there in the midst of women, farmers, taking out invention from real development concern. I wish we could capture that in our report. And that there was
in South Sudan. Take note of the distinction. Yeah. Okay. I have more hands on the floor, and I would ask the team to note of the additional comments made. And with that, we want to thank you sincerely. You've done a yeoman's job, and it has been well done. Thank you very much for your time, and also thank all for the attention. With that, we bring to a close. Thank you. Sustainability of Science, and this will be chaired by Honorable Edem Simon Asima, Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Ghana. And the speakers are Dr. Kwame Owusu, Fax Oil, Texas, United States of America. If they are here, can they please come to the round table? Dr. Madhvi Madhu, Mauritius Research Council, Mauritius. Dr. Agnes Mutumbi, Nairobi, Kenya. Dr. Honorable Adai, I don't think he is. Did you talk to him? You couldn't get him? Okay. Professor Sai, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Science and Technology. The SKA man, Director, Special Innovations, UNECA, Addis Ababa. If she's here, she's not here. So, Mr.
Go straight. And first listen to Dr. Owusu, Fax Oil, Texas, United States of America, USA. He is be on the in Africa, pros and cons in terms of climate change. The podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies, I'm expected to talk about oil and gas in Africa and talk about essentially the pros and cons of oil and science and technology. I was on a trip to Uganda, Makerere University, to find a lot of young students who were literally hung. Think about reverse brain drain while we think drain. I'm an example of one of those in terms of climate change. I see pros in terms of economic benefit, but not so much pros in terms of climate change, because by definition, you are burning fossil fuel and putting something into the atmosphere. And if you're doing that, you are changing the balance in the atmosphere. You are pumping a lot of carbon dioxide into that. Use an awful lot of fertilizer. We are actually creating another problem. We put an awful lot of they do affect the constitution of the atmosphere, and we tend to therefore allow warming to happen. Okay, because I mean we do need the sun's rays to keep warm. After all, everybody came here in a car or an airplane or something. Have to, you know, use process. So I would just show you a couple of disasters that the industry itself has created. This is a difficult subject for me. I've spent a lot of years around the globe helping to find and talk about this, but I tend to argue that global warming is not true, and therefore of finding solutions. Anyway, just to this happened back in 1980. Piper in the North Sea. It was owned by Occidental and Petroleum, and this they had, and it caught on fire, and it was a major disaster. The atmosphere is also being polluted. Here, Exxon Valdez, it happened back in '89 after Alpha Piper. The drunken rode his, sent his ship aground on a reef and caused a major disaster. You know, about 1,300 miles of coastline was literally destroyed. About 11,000 square miles of ocean was heavily polluted. I think, I'm not sure completely done. Maybe Exxon has paid an awful lot of money, but they are still in court. If you look over here, you know, there's a boom, you know, trying to out of this tanker. Here's another one. Recent, 2010. This happened only in 2010, and I showed this because it was a huge disaster. They are still in court. BP has paid money here that although we've good economic benefits in oil along our, we have to be prepared for certain possible that may happen. You know, as far as I understand it, the well was planned well. Execution may have been a problem. And there was died. An awful lot of oil took place. Nobody actually knows how much oil was spilled. Okay? Now, these out here fighting the fire. I don't believe, and certainly does not have them. It's new at this game. I just want to throw it out there that we have to be prepared. You need to train to understand these issues and towards finding. We are lucky enough, others have done it. At the time this was happening, in order for them to cap the well, technologies that were non-existent were almost instantly developed to make it happen, stop it. Now, can you imagine if something like that happened on our coast, either in Ghana, Nigeria, Angola, or in a producing country? So these are things that I think for us to look at and ourselves, that we have work to do as we develop ourselves. Now, there's something called flaring, gas flaring. As you produce oil, the oil tends to have dissolved gas in it. And as you produce the oil, you need to also take that gas out. And to take that out, in general, we have burnt it, simply burnt it. And when you go to Nigeria, you find an awful flaring. You see flaring right behind her. This is man-made. The previous three were that happen, accidents. It's an industry that says electricity. You take Nigeria, there are problems with electricity. You tap and actually use it. Ghana, I would say that you aim, or for that matter, any other country, Uganda, Nigeria, or elsewhere, you develop. So, so this is a case where the industry itself does. So to use these resources very carefully. Nature has creating sources and sinks in our agriculture, but where we do, I think we should aim to minimize it. You know, as much as we use natural as well, because whenever we use fertilizers, what we are doing is we are actually creating methane, and we are also, the nitrogen in there, encourage using what we've got.
Do you want to take questions now?
Oh, I can.
Listen to him, because if we want to take the questions, if you have any questions to ask him for clarification, if you have any point for questions to ask him, having listened to him, those things. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a very good presentation, and also awareness on the disasters that took place and that might take place here. My observation is that most of the disasters took place outside Africa, and in a sense they are just like my country, producing country, and concentrate on this oil which is creating environment, and that are exploring oil in Africa function, which is very good, that thing which we need to do. We are getting these benefits from oil, and we are not conscious about afforestation from where we have removed trees.
Through education, and I don't mean formal school education, the things that they see elsewhere can be brought almost directly. If you are in Parliament, you deserve a title honorable, then one of the things you do, experience has had in terms of a disaster, or have had, you know, success. Let me just learn that and bring it. Let's formulate a policy within our country, and happen. Only a few days after I reported as a transfer to BP in London, I quite remember work towards making it happen. And on a regional basis, it makes it even better. So it doesn't have to be just country by country. some dialogue that needs to go on.
Very interesting presentation. My name is Stefan Hafner. I'm from Space Center. I'm working for the Federal Ministry of Education. What I would like to highlight is, and this was very interesting and very that you have stated the issue of station, and there we can see how the things are working together and how interconnected they are, and why we need scientists to bring all puzzles together. Yesterday in the workshop on food security and water, and I've already stated agriculture. We are thinking about ethical resource, which means small farmers are also protecting the environment, and they are changing. And so therefore, all farmers are taught to plant trees. They will have some, but they are also doing something which is related to and gas business. And so therefore, I'm arguing for using this headline of bioeconomy, all aspects in our mind as decision makers. So if we are working with small farmers, it affecting the oil and gas business. So bioeconomy is a very important headline we should use. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you've got a you've got a point. Those of us who are not farmers to actually plant trees. I think you've got a for real.
It's a wonderful presentation. It's true, in Africa we don't have capacity in oil and gas, and I'm talking especially from East Africa. We have just started now discovering the oil, and so that now we can utilize that to bring people back to the continent, and then to also devote some money towards research. Sure, we can get those that can break down this petroleum. As companies, we should have a policy where the oil companies should devote a certain percent.
What would bring one love of country? If we look for our people who are in the diaspora, from archaeology to zoology, I do know that there are Africans having studied them and do practice and practice their sciences and so on very, very successful. And so I think they can all, and I just got back from Houston, and I had a picnic last Sunday, and the number of very young people who are to attract such people to come back for however long they choose to come. You can't force them, but you can encourage a number of Nigerians. Every 1 out of 5 Africans is a Nigerian, and there are so many in America and to Nigeria. You encourage to go back. Other nations do ask X% benefits, and I think if you do that, you will be helping the countries in the continent.
Any more interventions?
Thank you very much. I would like also to invite you for I would just recall the VTEC Africa conference countries in managing their resources. And then I would like to know, going to get task force countries to manage all the companies installed in our countries with foreign staff in one day.
I think if somebody is willing to help Africa by donating funds and to assist. I did mention at the very beginning of my thing about if they have potential, then there's no reason why we shouldn't tap into those resources and ensure that our own people can actually learn. But also, when they do get jobs in these companies, they should aim to actually go in. First day you walk in, you become the man. You also spend over a period of time, develop knowledge and develop skills. You can also do it and do it better than what you found. So that's what I would say. But I do very much what you said. Thank you.
I think Dr. Kwame, we'll go to the next presenter and we'll listen to Dr. Mad. Thank you. Maurice.
Thank you, Chair. I am Madhvi Madhu from the Mauritius Research Council. I operate under the aegis of the Ministry of Communication, Technology and Innovation in Mauritius. I feel very privileged to be in such a distinguished audience, and I'd like to thank Professor and Dr. Peggy Oti Boateng for having. We are found on the eastern coast of Africa. We are only 2,000 kilometers square with a population of 1.3 million. So unlike countries with a lot of land and not a lot of land resources, but on the other zone of focus on promoting a knowledge and an ocean economy. Now, regarding growth and competitiveness, so well, if we look at the latest report of the Global Competitiveness Report Economic Forum, we are ranked 39 out of 144 countries. We managed to leap from being a middle-income country to a middle-income country. Now we are being an income country, and it's very dedicated to innovation. Now I just want to present to you the process which is being used in Mauritius to achieve innovation. So what we are actually saying is that we have different processes here. These different processes are what we call the 5 E's: envision, enable, engage, vehicles. Those who are going to actors need to be identified by having a national innovation fund. Our public expenditure accounts in 25 million rupees, which is about $4 million US. The government is already showing that it is committed towards research and innovation. And through these funds, we are also trying to attract private sector, because we believe that innovation really happens in the private sector. They are the ones who are going to employ people, and they are the ones who are going to commercialize research output. If we want a country to benefit from innovation, it's very important of the private sector participating in diverted to different schemes: innovation and commercialization, research grant scheme, research and innovation support schemes, award schemes. We have at least to 25 funding schemes, which opportunities for everybody to be part of the innovation process. Now, innovation doesn't necessarily come from private sector or research. It could also be the informal sector. It could also be somebody who is not educated, or who has an innovative idea. So we have funding schemes for such ideas as well. I would say that in part of the framework we are doing quite well. But we also realize that for innovation to inform data has to be accessible to everybody. There's a lot of public funds to research, but what is happening to these output? They are just ending up as projects in our drawers. So we are on an open access database where people can actually see the to the public, because people need to feel that they are actually party and participating in the process. And in the evaluation of our framework, we have KPIs, monitoring, innovation, which is the innovation indicators, which allow us to know where we are doing well and where we are not doing so well, so that we can improve on the. So actually our innovation indicators, and also we are using some indicators from Europe, so how far. So that was just an overall picture of how innovation. So actually we are implementing that in the ocean sector. We had to define very clear priorities, and now we have 7 clusters. The cluster, the deep ocean water applications, marine services, seaport services, marine renewable energies, ocean cluster, and petroleum and minerals. So these are 7 clusters which have been defined as being the strengthening which needs to be to happen there. We are looking into new opportunities, transshipment activities, cutting, filleting, loining, lagoon, to add value to the fish, and also to other niche products like oyster, agriculture, and so on. Now, the deep water application, that's an interesting one. It's this picture summarizes what it concept which was developed by the Mauritius Research Council, where it consists of extracting water from the sea, which happens to be very low in temperature, rich in minerals, and we have downstream applications. Once the water is extracted, it can be used for the breeding of high value seaweed, and the temperature also as we go downstream, and it is a clean water which gets discharged in the lagoon. So this is what the water applications are. And in fact, the private sector has already taken up the air cooling part, and very soon they are looking into implement the air cooling in the from deep sea water. So this is a very good example of how research translated into a commercial application. Now, once we had the cluster, we realized people, the clusters won't work by themselves. To make some which are required 2 sectors in the ocean economy. One is in red there, the culture and the ocean economy, including development of petroleum hub and development of marine services hub. We realized that we can't just produce marine scientists. We are already doing that. And if we want to make the ocean economy happen, or specialized intermediaries who can really for the marine finance sector to work, we need also experts to make sure that this is done, all our activities are done in a sustainable. Now, this is just a roadmap forecasting, but all this had to be translated. And this is a time frame here, and these are the different actions, how the policy measures have been translated to actions. All the researchers working here. Somehow for this to be translated towards into job and wealth creation, there are a number of platforms which needed to be created. Among these, we needed to have the proper governance method, the proper governance mechanism. So since this year, we have a Ministry of Ocean Economy. I thought that it's very important to have a ministry to oversee the whole system. We have a National Ocean Council set up just a few weeks back, consisting of public and private sector. And their responsibility is to make sure that all the research initiatives are actually translated into job creation. And this governance mechanism actually ensures synergy among the different and non-research institutions which are involved in the ocean economy. The other thing is the building. The human capacity building is important. So since 2 years, we have a Faculty of Ocean Studies, at the University of Mauritius. We also, at the council, give graduate award people to in ocean studies. What I don't have here on this slide, yes, I omitted the pre-primary, primary, and secondary education because we believe that, I'll just take 2 minutes to finish. We believe that capacity building has to start right from primary education. Another important initiative in our roadmap is the technology incubator, where we encouraging companies from overseas to come and test their renewable technologies in our waters. And of course, we also have of lawyers framework which is going to be required in this whole. The main message is that if we want something to happen, not an SNT to be translated into commercial application, it's very important to have people working together. This multidisciplinary approach is important. Before finishing, from our I would like to share our from the ocean economy related to today. We are all talking of SDGs and MDGs, which is really translation of science and technology into development goals. Yesterday we were asking question, why didn't many African countries achieve SDGs? And from my very humble opinion, I think the facilitation hasn't been here. We have programs from EU, COMESA, SADC, but then once it is on paper, there is no real drive to this program. And we believe that there should be a team. In our case in Mauritius, National Development Goals is the Mauritius Research Council who does that. And I believe that UNESCO, SADC, COMESA also believe that sector is also important when we are coming up with recommendations on. And maybe next time we have some meeting, this is where innovation. And these are the.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dr. Peggy Boateng for inviting me and all the arrangements. I'm glad to be here. And I'll present to you on the marine and climate perspective according to my studying. So why should we care about climate impacts on oceans and marine? Sorry. Problem? Something? It wasn't a slideshow. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. So why should we care about climate impacts on oceans and marine ecosystem? Because we are a planet ocean. A lot of the on the a lot of the Earth surface is covered by water. We have 70% of the Earth surface being underwater, and we can see that even in Africa we are all surrounded by water, with an average depth of 3,800. A lot of influence on the water. Well, some of the importance of the ocean, we can get food. We have food such as fish, crustaceans, and many other foodstuffs that we get from the sea, and so on. It's a source of livelihood of people, tourism, fisheries from, say for example, from the hurricane and so on, when mangroves that are on the edges of the ocean. It also has carbon storage, and a lot of carbon is sequestered into the oceans, deposited there, and therefore all these issues of climate change. We also get oxygen when microorganisms are producing carbon and making their carbon, and therefore converting carbon dioxide into oxygen, which we can take in. And therefore, we have a lot of human benefits from the ocean. What are some of the causes of the climate change phenomena, like biotic factors, tectonic plates, volcanic eruption? But we also are about the human activity that causes emission of greenhouse, particularly carbon dioxide. We have seen that a lot being mentioned, even gas and oil exploration, where we are using fuel. We also promote that by cutting down forests, and therefore that leads so we have the rising carbon dioxide, which causes rising in temperatures. Environmental. When I looked at that, I saw that in the Target 7, great concern about global emission of dioxide, where barely for the developing countries. Apparently, for the developed countries, it has actually stabilized, but we still continue to see carbon emission. And that carbon emission brings about increase in temperature, like we've all, and it's projected that indeed carbon emission is going to continue tons of carbon dioxide being produced every year. For example, we have, because of that global warming, we see changing in rainfall patterns. We see a lot of stronger storms. We see wildfires, less and less mountains, thawing of the permafrost. And in the oceans, we see that there is, we have already witnessed damage to corals, rising sea level, warmer oceans, and specifically, there are a number of things that we can actually, it modifies vision of the Earth's death. So it means that we are actually going to lose a lot of our biodiversity and whatever we can get from that, because of the level or in the ocean, they tend to move more temperate, or even going deeper where it is warm, where it's cooler oxygen, because we know that the higher the oxygen, the higher the temperature and levels. Notice through research is the level transfer affected by ocean circulation, so that they are not larvae to arrive at the right where they should grow, where they should, and that will eventually with dynamics. Also, loss of mangroves has been observed as a result of sea level rise, because mangroves are not able to keep up with the rising sea level, and therefore they are not able to migrate fast enough. So we see a lot of losses in that aspect. Something on ocean acidity, whereby we are likely to lose a lot of the coralline algae, the other calcareous organisms, because they are unable to as a increase the carbon dioxide and the depressed pH. So what do we need? Some of the things, according to my opinion, is to develop technologies for renewable energy to reduce carbon emission, such as harnessing the wind, harnessing the wave, harnessing the solar. Yes, we need the fossil fuel, but the less and less we can use of the fossil fuel, the better reduce the carbon emission. We need to build capacity research, both to understand the impacts on climate change. A lot of that stuff that is actually research that has been done in the temperature. So we really don't know exactly what is happening to our biodiversity. So a lot of that we need to actually fund marine research. And marine research actually is very expensive, because transboundary, whatever happens in one country, the other countries as well. So we need to work together as a region. Agriculture for food supply and poverty alleviation, the dwindling wild catches that in many countries that there is less what we can get from the wild. So how can we our water systems? We can improve on mariculture. We have very little, we've done very little in that area. Something else that we also need to do is to improve that I think has already come up over and over again, improving communication between different stakeholders, the researchers, the policy makers, the funding agents, and they be able to come up with solutions to climate change, funding for research in marine science, whereby we shall be sorting the issues of water in all forms, because coastal communities make up about 40% of the global population. So if well, we shall be helping to improve that, to help the coastal populations, as well, because they will also be affected in one way or the other. Hunger, achieve food security and improvement. If we can improve on our sea.
So let's listen to.
First of all, just to indicate that I'm actually representing my Minister of Science and Technology, Minister Naledi Pandor, and I'll be speaking about the credible data to inform, using the SKA as a context, with credibility being put into the universe. And so there's something called dark energy that we don't understand anything about. But then we see a lot of galaxies and planets sort of together. And there again, there's something that we think that's holding them together. And in reality, we only understand 4%. And so the whole idea around astronomy is trying to understand more and the environment that we actually live in. So we also know the studies and studying the universe, that the universe is around 14 billion years ago. What we're trying to do from an astronomy perspective is try to look further back in time. So just to give the apart from the sun is Alpha Centauri. It's 4.2 light years away, meaning left manner, the way you look in terms of the stars, the further back in time you're looking. Huge challenge for astronomers, and especially given the fact that you, for radio telescope, bigger radio. And so what I've put down here is an example where South Africa is assisting the 30-meter-old dish for astronomy purposes. Now, as I said, we try to build bigger, limits how much of radio signals signal you actually receive. And so what we're trying to do is to build bigger dishes. So you can understand from an engineer, the bigger you make the dishes to support the challenge. So what the astronomers or the engineers have decided to do was to actually build a whole lot of smaller dishes and connect them up together. And you connect them up in a way that they actually talk as one instrument. But that is a problem not in the infrastructure. It's a problem in computer and software engineering. It's a software problem. It's not a hardware problem. Okay? And all of these dishes each other, and so when you spew out data from that, there's a massive amount of data, those instruments. And so you need high performance computers before the scientists even actually look at that data. And so given that idea of building smaller dishes, but these little dishes, and you add up the surface area, you're trying to get a square kilometer. That'll definitely be the most sensitive radio astronomy instrument in the world. So there's two types of technologies that will actually go into this instrument. The first is the single dish antennas. They all link together. There's about 3,000 of them. And then there's a second type of involved in the SKA. And so the majority actually in Africa, and the low frequency part of this is in Australia. So this is the dishes that, so it's been done in phases, and so what South Africa is, the first 64 dishes of that 3,000 March actually build the dishes. So now we have 4 dishes on site. By the end of March next year, we'll have another 28 dishes, giving us 32. And then the following year, we'll finish off the 64 dishes. Now, the big problem with the instrumentation is the data problem. So, to put it into perspective, dishes, if you link them all together, if you take the global internet traffic, it will be 10 times all of the global internet traffic that's flowing. But if you look at the second technology, which is the phase, all of the data coming off those instruments, it's 100 times, roughly, internet traffic currently. Okay? And as you can imagine, there's not much of the technology exists to deal with it, and actually the speed at which you need to challenge the use of that data.
Protecting the environment, you know, science is about the science, how to kind of more this whole issue of economic